Hi there everyone. We're gonna do another update video on the Red River of the North as it is now entering spring flood season in this area. I wanted to wait to make another video of this until things started to actually get going in this area, and now that it has, we're gonna make this update. So actually let me go out here and just kind of give a brief summary of what's happening. So you can see we actually have gauges in North Dakota, mainly on the southern part of the Red River that is now over flood stage. And there's also many area tributaries that are also in flood stage, or they're getting close to flood stage. And now we actually have official high water forecasts all the way up now to the Oslo, Minnesota gauge. And so we're going to take a look at these high water forecasts, and we'll take a look at the snowmelt progress and see what lies ahead. So let's start with the snowfall. So we've actually had a good amount of snowmelt. This is the snowmelt over the last 24 hours. There's been some pretty heavy snowmelt in the southern part of the Red River Valley, especially southeastern North Dakota. It looks like that's where the most snowmelt's been happening. There's been very little happening further north, so basically Fargo and places, or north of Fargo, the snowmelt has actually not been too great, at least over the last 24 hours. So snowmelt is ongoing, but if we look at the snow water equivalent, there is still quite a bit of water still locked away in this snowpack, especially in the central and northern parts of the Red River Valley. So you can see there's still a good amount of snow that has yet to melt off, despite our gauges starting to really increase now. So we'll start at the farthest south. This is at Wahpeton. I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wahpeton, North Dakota, which is also just across from Breckenridge, Minnesota. This location has actually already, at least we expect, given that there's no heavy precipitation over the next several days, it looks like that this area has already reached its maximum height. It's reached its maximum flow for this spring snowmelt season. So there's a preliminary crest of 14.66 feet. It was reached just before April 1st, and it is slowly going down. It's actually kind of leveled off a little bit. You can see the forecast still calls for a slow fall and then potentially another rise going into next week. At this time, like I said, it looks like most of the snow in this area has melted off, so chances are that this is probably as high as it's going to get this spring. But again, if we were to suddenly get very active weather in this area, and then that could change things. So the worst of the flooding's over in this area as of right now. It's looking like they really kind of dodged a bullet, I guess you could say, for this spring. Go downstream. We'll skip this river gauge, but notice how it's kind of leveling off as well. This is the Hickson gauge. This river gauge reached flood stage yesterday, and it does continue to go up. It's actually going above the forecast right now. You can see this is the latest observations indicated by the blue line, and this little purple line with the square points on there is the forecast height for the Hickson gauge. And based on current trends, it does look like that it is going to go above the forecast. The original high water forecast at Hickson was 33 feet, and now it was raised to 33.5, but I think it's looking likely it is going to get into the moderate category. So expect this forecast to be raised potentially another half a foot, maybe even another full foot higher than what it's showing now, because it is still going up at a very steady pace and it is not slowing down as of yet. So probably going to go above the forecast here at Hickson, but not too bad at all actually. You can see this is peaking in the minor, just under the moderate category, so that's not bad at all. It's very, very manageable. And what's been really nice about this area is that, yes, we had a lot of snow. There was a very deep snowpack. It's been a long winter, and there was definitely potential for historic flooding, but we've kind of got the better end of the deal here. We've had a very slow snowmelt for the past couple weeks, and that has seems to have mitigated the flood potential just a little bit. And going downstream now to Fargo, North Dakota. Here's the latest projections for Fargo. You can see the rise rate has actually sharpened. It's increased over the past few hours. So you can see how the line has been steadily going up, but now it's more sharp. It is now almost at the moderate flood category. As a matter of fact, here in an hour or so, it'll cross this threshold moderate flood stage of 25 feet. Currently, the crest forecast is for 35 feet. That is 5 feet above major. And yes, that is very high, but for the city of Fargo, that is very much manageable. The levee systems are usually good up to about 42 feet, and some of the flood walls are good up to 45 feet. So this is well below their flood walls, their emergency sandbag levees. So this is definitely a very manageable flood. So the water is certainly high, but it is manageable. So that's good news for Fargo, and thinking that this forecast is pretty much on target. Again, we have to keep watching the forecast very closely, as if heavy precipitation were to occur in this area, especially during the time of peak flows along the Red River, then we could have a more serious situation on hand. But as of right now, a little bit of precipitation in the forecast, and we'll kind of take a look at that later, but not enough to cause too much concern. So that is the current forecast for Fargo, 35 feet as a crest. For the Red River of the North at the Hallstatt gauge, Hallstatt, Minnesota, this forecast was just issued today. The first one, you can see it is creeping up towards action stage, which is at 24 feet. There is no crest forecast in the 7-day period. It does kind of start to slow down here next week as the runoff starts to decrease. The melt starts to finish itself off here. So currently they have it reaching 37 feet, which is almost the major category that is being reached in 7 days, or by April 9th, basically. Just want to repeat that this is not necessarily a crest forecast, although I would assume the crest is probably not too far off from this 37-foot height. So thinking that the river will probably crest around the major flood stage of 37.5 feet for the spring snowmelt flood. Thompson Bridge, no forecasts are ever issued for this, but you can just see how steady the rises have been. It's up to 34 feet now, or 34.1. And a flood warning and flood forecast is just issued for Grand Forks this afternoon, and we're about to take a look at that. Hopefully the internet will allow this thing to actually load here. While that's going, we'll just kind of take a look and see what's left. So the snow depth, you can see the snow depth is not too great, but again, there's still a lot of water locked away. Not as much as there was, for sure, definitely not as widespread, but you can see that in some areas of the Red River area, there's somewhere over 3 inches of water in some places. Okay, come on. Let's see here. Shut that window there. Okay. So this is the Red River of the North at East Grand Forks, which is Grand Forks, East Grand Forks region. You see the gauges off of Demers Avenue. There is no crest no crest is expected along the Red River at Grand Forks for the next 7 days. You can see there will be a constant rise over the next week. The latest stage is 23.7 feet, and it is still rising. Flood stage is expected to be reached by April 5th So by Friday morning, it looks like Grand Forks will probably be at the flood stage, according to this forecast. And by 7 days from now, so by April 9th or into April 10th, we are looking at a stage of about 45 feet, which is just under the major flood category. And at 45 feet, Grand Forks closes the Sorley Bridge that connects East Grand Forks to Grand Forks. And that also overtops the low-lying levee at the Riverside Park area. So again, this is not an official crest. It is expected to continue to rise beyond this. And, there's been quite a bit of rising action happening at Grand Forks, even before all this water. And if we go back to this, you can see up by Grand Forks, there's still a lot of water, still a lot of snow left in the area. So there's been quite a bit of rising action going on even before this water, which hasn't even melted yet, has reached this area. So definitely expecting a stage that is higher than 45 feet. So I am definitely expecting this river to go into the major category. It remains to be seen exactly how high it gets beyond that, but yeah. So I'm most concerned about the central into the northern part of the Red River. I think the south is really kind of dodging a bullet. Basically, they've had the warmest temperatures, but because the temperatures have dipped below freezing every night, it's kind of made the water releases into the river more slow, and so the river heights are not quite as bad as what they could have been, say down in Fargo. But again, if the weather is to change and the weather becomes more active, we could have a more serious situation on hand. So I'll have to keep an eye on this as the forecast becomes more and more refined over the next several days at Grand Forks. The Oslo gauge. The Oslo gauge is currently the only other river gauge along the Red that within the next 7 days is forecast to see major flooding, the other one being Fargo. So the Oslo gauge is just under action stage, which it will reach action stage by tomorrow morning, according to this forecast, and it's pretty much right in line with it, reaching 21.9 feet by 7 o'clock. So it's pretty much spot on with this with the forecast right now. So steady rise expected, and it will continue. This is not an official crest, but it will reach somewhere around 36 feet by April 10th. That is in the major flood category, and there's no question really that the Oslo gauge was going to get into the major category. If we can pull up the probabilities of seeing major flooding at this location, and you can see it was pretty much guaranteed that this place was going to reach major. So that is that is being explicitly forecast right now in the deterministic forecasts. And then the Drayton and Pembina gauges do not yet have high water forecasts, as it has a ways to go yet before it's even close to flood stage. But I am expecting high water forecasts for those areas here within a few days, probably. So overall, just kind of a summary. So we are starting to see flooding along the Red River, and yes, some gauges are going to be topping their major flood category, but thus far it is not looking like it is going to be another historic flood year. We've really just had the better end of luck. I know we had a lot of snow, and February and even into March was pretty relentless with the snowfall and the winter weather, but the thaw that we've had has just been so easy on the snowpack. They are expected to really warm up. Tonight is like the first night, especially in the southern part of the Red River Valley, where temperatures are not dropping below freezing at night. So now we've got a continuous water release into the Red. beginning today and into tonight, and this will continue over the next several days. So we are expecting these rises to kind of accelerate over the red this weekend and into next week. So the warm weather that is coming should probably finish off the remaining snowpack that is in this area. So after that, we'll really be at the mercy of if any heavy rains occur during these rises or during the crests. That'll really determine how we come out of this event. So I want to say that overall, not looking like a historic year, but still pay close attention to the weather forecast, because if we get heavy rain, that could kind of reverse our luck with this slow snow melt that has been ongoing for the past couple of weeks in this area. So that's all I have for you. Thank you guys for watching.